Hello everyone, this is part 4 of What If Naruto Didn't Spend His Birthday Alone, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Maybe we should just let things carry on as they are, and the right time will come. Naruto said as he and Hinata were walking in the woods. Hinata nodded. It's possible that we're just thinking about this way too much and the right time will come. We should just enjoy the time we have before the day, okay? Hinata looked a little worried still, but she nodded. You're still worried? Of course I am, Hinata said. She looked at Naruto, her eyes showing deep distress. I'm just scared, I suppose. I don't want to spend my life with that man, to spend my life with someone I don't love. She blushed and looked down. I won't let that happen, he said. They stopped walking and he wrapped an arm around her. I'll do anything I can to stop it from happening. I know you will, she said, giving Naruto a smile that hadn't been seen in a long time. Naruto blushed and smiled back. He had forgotten how pretty she looked when she smiled. He grabbed her hand and continued walking. So what should we do? Naruto and Hinata spent the rest of the days together. They went for walks, ate ramen, and just stayed at home enjoying each other's company. On their last night together they decided to their favorite spot. It's the place where they met in ch.1, and where it all began. They sat against a tree and looked up at the sky. Hinata rested her head on Naruto's shoulder and they both were lost in the stars. Naruto turned his head slightly and looked at Hinata. She was smiling and her eyes were scanning the sky, looking at each star. He smiled softly and stuck his hand in his pocket. Hinata, if you weren't being forced, would you want to get married? Hinata looked away from the sky, still smiling. Of course, if it was someone I loved, she said. Naruto rumbled around and readjusted himself so that he was now facing Hinata instead of sitting next to her. Then, after we sort all this crap out, do you think you would want to marry me? Naruto handed her a small box, and blushed. Hinata sat motionless. She blinked a few times and took everything in that Naruto just said. Naruto looked really nervous. He started to fidget when Hinata didn't respond and just stared. Hinata, I'm sorry, I knew I should have waited, I'm so stupid. Hinata replayed what he said in her head over and over again. She finally understood everything and the shock had subsided. She nearly tackled Naruto with a hug. She started to cry. Does that mean yes? Naruto said, still a bit unsure due to her crying. Of course it does, Hinata said, facing him. Naruto's face lit up immediately. He stood up and hugged Hinata. He lifted her off the ground and pulled her into a deep kiss. He spun her around and finally set her down on the ground. They were both laughing. Hinata had the biggest smile on her face she had ever had. She was still crying when Naruto took the box from her and took out the ring. He took her hand and slipped the ring on her finger. She laughed and wiped her tears away. Then Naruto pulled her into another big hug. I'll make you the happiest wife in the world, he said, and he kissed her on the lips. And I'll make you the happiest husband, Hinata said, and she kissed him as well. Naruto carried Hinata back to his house. They both had forgotten everything that was going on. Even if they did, it wouldn't have mattered. They were as happy as they ever could have been. That night they both fell asleep in each other's arms. When they woke up, they remembered that tomorrow would be the day of the wedding. They were both upset, but they were still happy. Naruto helped Hinata pack her things in a backpack, and they walked hand in hand to the Hyuga estate. When they arrived, Hinata's father was waiting out front. He scowled when he saw them holding hands, but they didn't separate. I almost thought you wouldn't show up, Hiashi said. I'll show up, but I won't go through with this wedding, she said. Hiashi smirked. Say your goodbyes then come inside, there is much work to be done. He walked back inside and slammed the door shut. Naruto stuck his tongue out after him. Hinata giggled. I'll come see you tonight, okay? Naruto said, taking hold of Hinata's other hand. She nodded. I'll come at around 9. He squeezed her hands and gave her a kiss on the cheek. He let of her hands and ran back down the road. She waved after him and sighed when he was out of sight. She walked miserably into her house, where she was greeted by many servants all pulling her in different directions. This was going to be a long and tearing day. She had escaped all the questions and the measurements for a while by running into the gardens. It was always her place she could go to for a moment of peace. As she walked towards a bench, she looked up to find Kestu already occupying a bench. Before she could turn the opposite way, he saw her. "Ah, Hinata-san, it's nice to see you," he said, giving a fake smile. "I wish I could say the same," she said, also with a fake smile. Ketsu laughed. "I wish we could talk about this. The only way I'm going to talk to you is if it's about canceling this wedding." "Well, we both know I won't do that." "Then I see nothing to talk about," Hinata said and walked back inside the house. It was about 8 o'clock when she was finally done with everything. At least she had a beautiful kimono she was going to be able to wear. It was a dark blue with a nice lavender pattern around it. She collapsed on her bed and immediately fell asleep. She woke up to the sound of taping. She jumped up and went to the window. She flew it open and looked around. She didn't see him anywhere. She sighed, then she felt something tap her on the head. She looked up and saw Naruto squatting on the roof. He smiled, then hopped down. "Good evening, madam, may I come in?" he said with a bow. Hinata laughed and stepped to the side of the window. Naruto bowed again and hopped in the room. Hinata closed the window and turned towards Naruto. "So how did it go?" he asked. Hinata scowled. Naruto laughed. "I've known you for so long, but I've never seen you actually get this angry over something." Hinata blushed. "Well, it's just not right." She sat down on her bed and leaned against the wall. "It'll go perfectly tomorrow, just watch," Naruto said, sounding very confident. Hinata smiled, and Naruto came to sit next to her. "I promise I won't let this wedding go through." "I know," she said, giving Naruto a peck on the cheek. "Do you think we could go out? I've been stuck in the house all day." "Yeah, let's go," he said, taking her hand and leaping out the window. They went for a walk around town, and stopped to get ramen on the way back to Hinata's house. By the time they got back it was 11 o'clock. Hinata went back into her room and Naruto stood outside. They both didn't want to separate. "I'll come in the morning before everything starts," Naruto said. Hinata looked glum but nodded. "Come on, don't you trust me?" "Of course I do," Hinata said. "Then smile," he said, smiling himself. Hinata laughed and gave him a big smile. He leaned in and gave her a deep kiss. Then he jumped away. Hinata blushed and got ready for bed. She lay in bed and looked at her hand, where her ring was. She blushed whenever she looked at it, and it made her forget all of her worries. She fell asleep thinking of how her real wedding would be. The next morning Naruto woke up and immediately headed over to Hinata's house. This was the day of her wedding, and he had to find a way to stop it with as little violence as possible. He thought of many scenarios, countless times, over and over, but they never worked out. He jumped up on Hinata's roof and began to make his way to her window. As he jumped down to knock on her window when he heard voices, he froze and listened. "Ketsu-sama," he heard one say. It was coming from a few windows down. He walked silently over to the windows and listened. "Ketsu-sama," the voice said again. "It's time to get ready." "Yes, I know. It's finally here, the day I have waited for." Naruto could tell that the voice was Ketsu. "Ketsu-sama, aren't you afraid that Kyuubi boy will get in the way?" "He may try if he wishes, but he won't get through the Anbu guards." Ketsu laughed. Naruto twitched in aggravation. "But what if he does? I don't think you should underestimate him." The voice sounded concerned. "Well, if he does miraculously make it through, then it shouldn't be a problem to stop him myself." "How would you do that, sir?" "Simply by doing to him what I have done Hiashi. I will use my technique and take control of his mind. I will make him leave and then kill him myself." Ketsu laughed again. "I see. What are you going to do after the wedding?" I might enjoy the festivities for a while, but at night I will steal Hinata's Byakugan and then kill her." After hearing this, Naruto ran straight to Hinata's room. He pounded urgently on the window. Hinata came in an instant and swung the window open. Naruto immediately hopped in. Hinata crashed into him, giving a big hug, her eyes brimming with tears. Naruto was about to tell her all that he had heard, but she was crying too hard. "Hinata." He tried to calm her down. "Hinata, it's okay, everything will be okay." He cooed as he stroked the back of her head. Come on, don't cry. He lifted her chin. She sniffed, her eyes bright red. She wiped the tears away and tried to smile. I'm sorry, she said, still more tears coming down. I can't stop. Naruto bent down and gave her a gentle kiss on the forehead and then whispered. You trust me, right? Hinata nodded. No matter how confused and uncertain you are during the ceremony, be sure to trust me, okay? Hinata looked confused, but she nodded again. He hugged her tightly and pet her head to try to get her tears to stop. There was a pound on the door. Hinata-sama, a female voice called. Hinata-sama, are you up? It's time to get ready. Hinata looked at the door, then at Naruto. She wiped her tears away and cleared her tea. Just a moment, please, she called in a shaky voice. She looked up at Naruto. He hugged her tightly. Just trust me and everything will be okay. Hinata said as she rested her face on his shoulder. He pulled her face away from his shoulder, then gave her a deep kiss. He cupped her face with one hand and held her close to him with the other. When they finally parted, Hinata let another tear fall and then turned around with a determined face. You may come in, she called to the servant. Naruto quickly made his way over to the Hokage office once he left Hinata. He needed to ask Tsunade about getting an Anbu uniform. He hopped into the window of the Hokage office to find Tsunade sleeping on her desk with a glass of sake next to her. Naruto sighed, then went over to try to wake her up. Tsunade Bar-chan. He shook her shoulders. No, Shizune, no more work, she said as she rolled over on her other side. Naruto shook harder. No, Shizune, she said angrily. Wake up, Obaa-chan. Naruto yelled in her ear. Tsunade opened her eyes and punched Naruto in the face. What the hell are you yelling about so early in the morning? She said, still groggy from sleep. Why the hell did you punch me? Naruto yelled, rubbing his cheek. Stop yelling, Tsunade said, holding her head. Ugh, I drank too much again. She shook her head. Bar-chan. Naruto said. What? And don't call me that. Tsunade snapped. Do you have an Anbu uniform I could use? Anbu? Why the hell would you want an Anbu uniform for? She thought for a moment, then her eyes widened. Holy crap, it's today, isn't it? Naruto looked down and nodded. Geez, I'm sorry guys, there was nothing I could do. Don't worry, Tsunade Bar-chan. I have a plan, and I found something out. All I need is an Anbu uniform. Naruto said a bit excitedly. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. And just what did you find out? Naruto smirked and explained everything to her. That bastard. She slammed her hands on her desk and stood up. I should go over there and kick his ass myself. Chill out, Bar-chan. Naruto said. I've got everything planned out, so can you let me borrow a uniform? He said with two hands in front of his face in a pleading manner. Yeah, sure, she said, looking in thought. I'd better tell the Anbu about this so they don't attack you. She sighed. Honestly, if you hadn't told me what you were doing, you would have gotten yourself killed. Follow me, I'll get you a uniform, she said as she headed for the door. You're the best, Bar-chan. Naruto cheered. Yeah, I know. Tsunade smiled. Hinata was sitting in front of a beauty mirror looking at herself. She was in the wedding kimono and one side of her hair was held back with a purple flower clip. She did look nice, but for the wrong occasion. She sighed and felt like crying again, but she shook herself. She wouldn't cry again. Naruto knew what he was doing. Everything would be fine. Hinata-sama, it's time. A servant called to her. Yes, she replied. She took one final look at herself in the mirror, then at her ring, and she smiled. Everything would be fine. She stepped out into the hall and was greeted by many servants, all dressed in kimonos similar but not as pretty as hers. She walked down the hall and towards the garden where the wedding was being held. An Anbu member appeared beside her. He bowed to her. I will escort you. There are members everywhere to make sure nothing goes wrong, he said. Hinata looked at him questioningly but followed. There was something strange about him. She stopped and stared at him. He turned around. Is there a problem? He asked. Hinata approached him and took off his mask. Naruto was smiling behind it. I knew it. Hinata smiled and fell into his arms. I guess I can't fool you, Naruto said, giving her a hug. But she began to say. It's all part of the plan, he said, winking. Hinata smiled. Now we can't have you smiling like that now. Naruto scolded her. You're supposed to be miserable. When he said that, Hinata just thought of marrying Ketsu and her smile disappeared in an instant. Naruto gave her another hug, then slipped his mask back on. Let us continue, he said in a monotone voice. Hinata smiled one last time, then became serious. She continued to walk down the hall with Naruto walking by her side. She looked down the hall and saw Ketsu waiting at the end. She narrowed her eyes and scowled. She heard Naruto chuckle and then Ketsu approached them. May I take your arm? He said, holding his own arm out. No. Hinata glowered at him. Ketsu smiled. You still try to resist, even thought you know there is nothing you can do. My dislike for you will never pass as long as I live. With that she continued walking, and Ketsu slowly followed her. She walked out into the garden. There were only Hyugas there along with about 10 Anbu members. She spotted Tsunade in the very back. Tsunade waved and gave her a wink. She assumed Naruto had explained his plan to her. There was clapping as Hinata walked around the courtyard. She bowed to her father and then made her way to the center of the garden where the priest was. She glanced around one more time to see Naruto standing near Ketsu. As Ketsu began to make his way across the garden towards the center, Naruto waited, then was gone. Ketsu was walking past the guests when Naruto reappeared beside him holding a kunai to his throat. Ketsu smirked. So you decided to come after all, and you got past the Anbu. Not bad, Kyubi. Naruto didn't say anything. I suppose you think you will K me now, he said, laughing. You can try. He raised his hands to make hand seals, but Naruto jumped away and stood beside Hinata. He whispered something in her ear. She looked at him skeptically, then nodded, still unsure. Naruto disappeared and Ketsu looked around carefully. You think you can get away? No, I have no plan of going anywhere, Naruto replied, reappearing beside Ketsu. He summoned 2 more shadow clones. Hinata now, he yelled. The shadow clones gripped Ketsu's arms and prevented him from moving. Naruto jumped back as Hinata activated her Byakugan and charged at Ketsu. She began to seal all his chakra holes as Naruto's shadow clones disappeared. Ha! Hinata sealed the final hole and sent Ketsu flying back into Naruto's arms. Hinata straightened her stance and dispersed her Byakugan. Ketsu panted and coughed up blood. You bastard, he hissed. Naruto let him fall to the ground. He walked in front of him and knelt down. Now then, Naruto said. He smirked at the triumph of his plan. Ketsu coughed up more blood, then began laughing. You think this will stop me? He roared. He stood up shakily. He performed some hand seals and concentrated. Naruto yawned and stood up. Ketsu opened his eyes and stared at Naruto. He. Just as I thought. Naruto smirked. I am possible. Ketsu stumbled backwards. I shouldn't be weakened this much. I know all about your mind control thing. I figured that it must take a great deal of concentration and chakra control, so I had Hinata seal up your chakra holes. That way you can't control your chakra very well. Even if you could still control your chakra enough to get into my mind in the slightest, you're forgetting one important thing. I'm not alone. Naruto smirked. Ketsu stood in shock, then recomposed himself. Maybe I can't get to you, but there are plenty of other people I could use my technique on, even if only for a moment. He smiled. Yeah, I suppose you could. Naruto said, but then again, are you sure you have enough time? What? Ketsu asked. Naruto charged at him and punched Ketsu in the face as hard as he could. Ketsu was sent flying back again. This time Anbu were the ones who caught him. Ketsu looked up wearily. Then he managed to smile once again. Now you're in for it, the Anbu will get you now. Oh, for God's sake, give it up already. Tsunade yelled. She came into the center of the garden followed by several Anbu. I've heard enough out of your goddamn mouth. Ketsu stared at her. He's wrecking the wedding, aren't you going to stop him? He said pathetically. You think you can play innocent? Do you really think I'm that stupid? Tsunade yelled, feeling insulted. Take him away and get everything we need from him. She said. RIGHT, the Anbu said in unison and they disappeared, taking Ketsu with them. Or, you couldn't have let me beat him up some more, Granny Tsunade. Naruto whined. I just couldn't take it anymore. Tsunade said, holding a hand against her temple. Honestly, how can people be so stupid? I'm impressed actually, Naruto. A bonehead like you came up with a half-decent plan. She smiled. I know, it was pretty good, wasn't it? Naruto laughed. I just wish I could have made that guy pay more for what he did. Don't worry about it anymore. Tsunade patted him on the shoulder. She nodded her head for Naruto to turn around. Hinata was standing there waiting for them to be finished talking. She was full of all different emotions, but mainly relief. See, I told you there was nothing to worry about. Naruto laughed again. Hinata teared and then ran straight into Naruto's chest. Naruto patted her head to help stop the tears. Thank you, she whispered. He was about to pull her into a kiss when Hiashi burst from the crowd. He was being held by Anbu by Tsunade's orders to keep from interfering. Hokage-sama, what is the meaning of all this? He yelled. Tsunade twitched then turned to Hiashi. I see that just because Ketsu was beaten up you're still under control. No matter though. Tsunade placed her hand on Hiashi's forehead and green chakra formed around her hand. Hiashi stood still, his eyes wide open. Tsunade closed her eyes and whispered some words to herself. Then she opened her eyes and pressed her palm against his forehead. Hiashi suddenly collapsed and lay motionless on the floor. That ought to do it, Tsunade said, clapping her hands together. Servants rushed around Hiashi and carried him into the house. He should wake up in about 12 hours, Tsunade said to Hinata. Hinata, who had stopped crying but was still in Naruto's arms, smiled and bowed. Thank you, Tsunade-sama, she said. Tsunade gave her a kind smile and nodded. Okay, my work here is almost done. Come and see me in about a week and I can relay all the information about Ketsu that the Anbu are getting right now. Naruto and Hinata both bowed as Tsunade left the garden. Then they stood up and turned to each other. Hinata smiled. I'm glad this wedding business is over, she sighed. Naruto raised an eyebrow then picked Hinata up, holding her face above his own. Well, you're not completely home free yet, he smiled. You still have a real wedding to complete. Hinata laughed and kissed Naruto gently as he brought her down and into his arms. 1 week later, Hinata and Naruto entered the Hokage's office and sat down in front of Tsunade's desk. Well, we ended up getting all the information we needed, Tsunade said, not waiting for a greeting. Apparently in the Shunku family, if you're not a ninja or a great leader, you're considered worthless. Ketsu wasn't able to master the ninjutsu training his family put him through as the heir. He made countless mistakes when tested to see if his strengths lied in leadership. So his father told him he couldn't become the heir, and dismissed him. Ketsu, it seems, developed this mind control jutsu on his own and was going to use it to prove to his father that he was powerful enough to rule his family, and what better way than to take control of the strongest family in Konoha. So there you have it, Tsunade said with a sigh. Hinata and Naruto didn't speak as they processed all the information. Hinata lowered her head. I can relate to him in a way. She smiled weakly. I know what it's like to be dismissed by your father. That's not an excuse for what he did, Naruto said angrily. Unlike him, you've worked hard and trained to prove yourself to your father. Hinata looked at him and smiled. It was true, she had worked hard at getting her father to acknowledge her. He still was disappointed that she wasn't as strong as Neji, but he had been able to compliment her, which was enough. Thank you for the information, Hinata said, bowing to Tsunade. Tsunade nodded. So when is your wedding? Tsunade said with a big grin on her face. It's tomorrow, Hinata said, blushing. How is your father taking it? Well, he's not really happy about it, but H is grateful that Naruto saved our family, and think H is coming to accept him. That's good, Tsunade said. She smiled then laughed. What's so funny? Naruto asked. You, Tsunade said, still laughing. How so? Naruto stood up. You're a moron, that's why. Now off with you, I have work to do and you have a big day tomorrow, she said, waving her hand in dismissal. Hinata bowed one final time then left the office. Wedding day, yay. Hinata sat in front of her mirror taking one last glance at her kimono. She smiled then slipped a flower pin into her hair. A servant knocked on the door. It's time, Hinata-sama. Coming, Hinata said. She took a deep breath and looked at herself in the mirror. She was blushing and even shaking a little bit. She took several more deep breaths then opened the door. Servants bowed and moved out of her way. As she closed the door to her room, her father approached her. He held out his arm and Hinata took it. They walked down the hallway to the garden. You look beautiful, he said, sounding a bit awkward. Hinata smiled and looked up at her dad. Thank you, father, she said. You have grown up so much, you look just like your mother. He didn't look down at her, he just kept looking straight ahead. Are you sure this is what you want to do? He asked. He sounded concerned for her. This was the first time she had seen him actually have worry for her. I'm sure, father, she said, turning her head ahead. He nodded. Hinata felt that it would be the right time to tell him now. Father, I have given it much thought, and I'm sure you've already considered it. I won't be the heir for the Hyuga clan anymore. Her father stopped, his gaze turned to her. I know as well as you do that I'm not fit for becoming the leader of a clan. Hanabi, that's her younger sister, right? Or even Neji would be a better pick for that. Her father looked disappointed. I always hoped that my eldest child would one day lead the Hyuga clan, but you continued to fail in training by not meeting the standards it required. He sighed. I have always considered leaving the clan to Hanabi, and Neji is more than able. But are you sure this is what you have decided? Hinata was shocked. Her father was being considerate and rational. When her father saw this on her face, he smiled. After that incident with Ketsu, I feel I have been too harsh on you. A person as gentle and kind as you cannot fill the position as heir. If you do not fulfill this hope, then you must fulfill my other one. You must live a happy life, he said, and gave her a kiss on the forehead. Hinata started crying. He had said the one thing she always wanted to hear from him, something that meant that he actually did love her. She hugged her father tightly. He smiled and gave her a hug in return. Come on now, you mustn't be late for your wedding. He whipped her tears with his sleeve. Thank you. Thank you so much, father, she said, smiling. She joined arms with him again and they continued their way down the hallway. As they emerged in the garden, Hinata gave her father a kiss on the cheek and approached the priest where Naruto stood. He was dressed in a black and orange kimono and was blushing and staring at Hinata, which in return made her blush again and start to shake a bit. Hinata and Naruto joined hands and the priest recited an oath that they both repeated. I now pronounce you husband and wife, he said at last. Naruto turned to Hinata and grabbed her and kissed her immediately. Hinata blushed madly, but enjoyed every moment. She was now Uzumaki Hinata, together with the man she loved forever. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.